Ever since I was a young kid, I wanted to talk to successful people and entrepreneurs and learn from them. Fast forward to today, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by a ton of successful self-made entrepreneurs who are achieving amazing accomplishments. This is a show where I sit down with them, I chat with them about business, all the ups, all the downs. Welcome to the Tom Wayne Show. Okay, we're rolling. Kevin, my friend.
Hi.
Beautiful Friday afternoon, Vancouver. You don't see this very often nowadays.
Yeah, it's an epic fall day. It's
Yes.
it's perfect. It's the best you can get.
Yes,
right
this
now.
is crisp. You know, you probably got like pumpkin spice latte
No,
walking down the street. Yeah, you probably did. I don't.
No, I did bulletproof coffee this morning, but it feels like a pumpkin spice day.
All right, man. Well, welcome to the show. This is a show where I ask successful entrepreneurs how they got started, because ever since I was a little kid, I would see someone in a Bentley, in a someone who lives at the Shangri-La or something like that, and I'll be like, wow, like I wonder what that person did. So I wanted to ask you, how you got started, and fast forward now, I have so many. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of good friends in my network, including you, who have done these amazing things. So I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that are wondering the same thing, but people just can't ask random people like, hey, how'd you get started, right? So This is a show for that. So there's going to be people out there listening and ultimately really want to encourage these people to have the sense that, hey, like all these guests on the show, no one's special. Like they are regular people, but there was something about them that got them started. So we'll focus on that. So Kevin, appreciate you coming to the show. Maybe just share a little bit about what your childhood was like, because that's kind of where I want to begin, and then we can slowly talk about your business ventures, and then we'll just we'll just freestyle.
Yeah, for sure. So, oh my God, going back. Okay, Calgary, Alberta. For Americans listening or people who don't know Canada, it's like Denver. So, it's mountains, it's city, it's kind of everything, people going outside and doing outdoor activities and hiking and skiing. So like I grew up skiing, golfing in the summer, stuff like playing soccer. It was like fairly normal. Like Alberta is the Texas of Canada. So like most people there are in oil and gas. And my parents were in the industry and, working a corporate job. And, it just seemed like that was the path that I was maybe going to follow. But it was really interesting. Like I actually can remember back to when I had a time. I was in, I want to say grade 5 or grade 6. And I was thinking, I had a thought or more of a feeling inside. And I didn't know how to describe it or explain it. But I just kind of knew that I was going to do something big. And it was kind of cliche, and I didn't know what it meant. There was no direction, or there was no like idea or path of where to go. But it was, you got to do something big. And then what came along with that was kind of like the best word I can put around the feeling is wealth. It wasn't money, because it wasn't like dollar signs and Ferraris, but it was always like, nice. Like it was a good feeling of like kind of, the king sitting on the throne.
Like a nice piece of steak.
Yeah. I'm not vegan, so we can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like it was, it was about, pushing to the next level, that type of growth and that type of a mindset. And I can remember, okay, I don't know what this means, but I like it. And then it just kind of sat in the back of my head. And fast forward a couple years, I was 15 or 16 years old, and my parents did well in oil and gas. They were like, middle of the company. So we weren't, super rich. We weren't poor. We were great, middle class, and my parents had money saved up that if I was going to go to college, I could have used that money to go. I forego that actually and didn't go at all, and I made a different path that we'll talk about. But around 15 or 16, my dad actually ended up going to a conference, and I think it was about real estate investing, or it was something to do with like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like, the typical intro of, there's more to life than just a job that, you hate and blah, blah, blah. So there was that typical narrative, which I think, a lot of people, either they've gone down that themselves listening to this, or they know someone that has. Like that's a pretty wide range of how people get into that there's more to life than just working a job. And he really liked what he heard on day one, and he decided to bring me on day two. And at the time, I was kind of interested in like building websites. Like I want to be creative and play around with stuff. And, you know, I didn't know how to code. So I was like, oh, like what is coding? And try to figure it out and do that type of stuff. So he's like, oh, like maybe my son Kevin would like to do this. So he brought me along, and I don't think that I understood probably 90% of what happened on day two of that conference. It was just stuff that was going over my head, but I love being there. Like the energy and the people, and everybody's amped up and they're talking about doing cool things in life. That was like really appealing to me, of course. And then we ended up buying a package. It was like a website package or something where it was like, I want to call it, like it was like an affiliate website. I think that's what we bought. And that was supposed to be you know, as if you were in real estate going to buy an investment property, the way whoever pitched it was, you know, you're going to have an online property and you're going to be able to make money from it. And that was the pitch at the time. So, you know, what that gave me access to was, you know, an actual website, being able to play around with the code and figure that stuff out. And just like an arena, like a little sandbox to be able to play in. And it was through that journey that it started, and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read The 4-Hour Work Week, and, you know, all those typical books that, you know, everybody kind of gets introduced to. And there was a big passion ignited about, A, building something, but B, doing things my way, and like building a company and being my own boss. And I was like, oh, like this could be the thing that was in the back of my head before, about that idea of, oh, like you can do something big.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. It seems like we've done this once before. You already know what kind of questions I was going to ask you.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Like, it's really interesting that I met someone 3 years ago, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, life will take you different, you know, turns and directions, but sometimes your life, if you draw it on a piece of paper, let's say you're going straight, and then all it takes is one action, one event, one person, and your life, you're supposed to take a left, but you took a right instead, and now you're going, like, everything is different, right? Everything was different. So your dad, let's say, if he would have never took you to that conference, that, you know, that seminar, who knows, right? You might have figured it out yourself eventually, because you said, you know, in grade 5, you already have this drive. So I'm sure you'll figure it out eventually. But it's just interesting looking back that all these dots kind of connect.
Yeah. It's also the ripple effect too, where, you know, one small decision leads to the next, which leads to the next. And, you know, that's something that, you know, is great to keep in mind, because, you know, I heard this really great quote that I totally forget who said it, but they said that you want to be...
I thought you said, I totally forgot the quote.
They said you want to be careful about succeeding slowly, because sometimes you can succeed so slowly that it feels like you're failing. And everybody feels like they need to be an overnight success, or that all we need to do is launch. All we need to do is just get to this thing or this day, and then everything is going to change. And in reality, it's a million little decisions that you make that lead up to one big win. And, you know, you've heard it before. People talk about there's no such thing as an overnight success. It's more like a 10-year overnight success. And that's absolutely true. And it's just 10 years of little decisions over and over, and just, you know, guiding yourself down the path to make it to where you want to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you didn't go to college.
No, I didn't.
Your parents, that money, did they still give it to you, or are they like, nah?
No, I was like, man, maybe they'll give it to me as like seed money to start a company, and they didn't. My two brothers went to college, so they got to use that money. So I'm grateful that it went to, you know, a good use.
What made you decide not to go to college?
So when I was in high school and I was really getting into it, so I was like, had started to learn to code a little bit, was learning stuff like affiliate marketing, just copywriting in general, like sales. I learned how to, you know, do cold calls on the phone, and just, you know, all those skills. I was like, okay, I don't have success yet, but I can see people in the industry are way, way more successful. I can see how if I just keep pushing with this, I'll eventually one day make it. And also, I don't feel any calling to go to college. Like there's no, even if I didn't have my passions about, you know, being an entrepreneur, I was like, what's the alternative? Like, I remember one day I looked at, because I love design and real estate in general. So I was like, maybe I should be an architect, because you get to design things all day long. You get to make beautiful buildings. It's so cool. And then I literally remember my thinking for deciding against that was architects have the worst ratio of schooling to income. They have to go do the most amount of schooling for the lowest amount of income. They essentially do as much as a medical doctor would, and they get essentially half the income. It's like 100 something grand a year is the average salary for an architect, and a doctor's even above 200. So I was like, damn, like I'm not even good at school. I can't even go do that and be the longest one doing it. So I was like, well, if I can't do that, I mean, I don't know what I do. I think I'd rather just not go. And I just one day decided that. And then what I actually did, this is probably in grade 10 or 11, probably closer to grade 10, is I started taking the easier courses. So in like science and math and English I was good at because I can write. But science and math specifically, there's like the level that you need to get into the good schools, and then there's the level below that's just like, oh, if you're going to go like in a trade school, or it doesn't matter, you can take that level because there's no point in going to the higher one. So I would do the lower level and I would slack off and still get C's and B's and whatever, and then I would just go to Starbucks and work on my laptop. So like I would skip class all the time and not really take it that seriously, which is a little bit of maybe young entitlement or, naivety back then. But, I was actually working on trying to make business work while I was just doing the bare minimum in school. And I did graduate, and I think somewhere I have my diploma. But, I mean, that's all I needed. I was like, okay, I'll just graduate, and then I'll just focus on business.
Right. So after you graduated, you didn't go to college. I guess that's where kind of the side hustle started for you. So what was kind of the first series of side hustles?
So, well, for me, it was a side hustle that turned into a full-time hustle, and I was just trying my best to make it work no matter what. So a lot of it was like affiliate marketing, SEO, pay-per-click advertising, back with Google AdWords, doing some coaching and consulting. I remember for a while I was like, had just moved into my first apartment with my girlfriend, and I think our rent was $13.50 a month, and she had a good job, so like she was paying, at one point she paid a bit more than half, I think, or like she was like pulling in the money, and I was like, oh I got to do something to like pull my weight. And I started a social media consulting agency, did that for about a year. Was actually fairly successful. I think I got 10 or 12 clients. And
how'd you get those clients?
So that I had a contact who had an email list. And this is back in the days when guys, instead of a social media following, you would have an email list. And they had an email list of business owners. And I said, listen, can I send an email, or can I give you an email to send to your list and have people reply to it who are interested in doing social media consulting? If you can do that, I'll give you an affiliate commission. So I was able to leverage someone else's audience. There was a connection made. I don't know how many people replied, but I ended up getting like at least a handful of clients from that. Paid out like maybe the first months of retainer and commission to them, and then everything else after I kept. So that was cool because I was charging like, I want to say $500 a month on the low end to, I think my highest client was like $2,000 a month. So, I had about 10, and that was great. And I thought I was killing it. I was like, this is amazing, because I was in debt. Like it's one of the things that, entrepreneurs, it's really easy to talk about the successes, and we'll talk more about that. But also, the losses are pretty extreme. And when I was 18 or 19, I had like 25, almost 30,000 on my credit card. And most of it was living expenses. Like this is...
What were you doing?
Like I was living as though I already had the money. And that was the problem, because when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you're doing it from ego, you're thinking, oh, if I just get that one client, it's going to mean $20,000 a year. Oh, it's fine. I can go get this apartment, or I can do this, I can do that. And when you don't get the client, and then what's worse is you don't get the next one or the next one, but you still keep the spending going, it's very difficult, and you call yourself an entrepreneur. It's like, no, I don't want to get a job. I'm an entrepreneur. And then, I had that ego driven mentality and just didn't want to, cut things back. And, I wasn't good at managing money at all. I was like 18 or 19. So,
I used to spend my entire paycheck that I got from working at Sport Check on True Religion jeans and
I did that too.
the ugliest,
It's so stupid.
the ugliest T-shirts
Yeah.
ever created.
Yeah.
Like,
You got an Ed Hardy
I never
t-shirt
wore
or
Ed
something?
Hardy's because
I didn't either.
I never wore Ed Hardy, but there was like just other other brands out
Yeah.
there like Affliction and stuff.
Oh my
Like,
God.
what was I thinking, man?
Yeah. Mid 2000s. It was an
No
ugly
wonder
time.
my dad slapped me so hard one day. Wearing that Affliction shirt.
Dishonoring the family.
Yeah, pretty much. My God.
So, yeah, I
It's
mean,
like
when
$90 a
you're,
T-shirt, dude.
and what's interesting, I remember doing that too. And the thing that you do back then is you have at least when you're living at home, you're not paying anything. So if you make $300 or $400 on a paycheck from working part-time at the mall after high school, you're like, oh, dude, I can blow this in 2 weeks. $400 for a high schooler for a 2-week period. I mean, you feel pretty rich, right? So I had that mentality. And, it just dug me into a bunch of debt. And what's great, though, is I was able to dig myself out of it partially from that social media consulting company, but more so with what I ended up doing next, which was, I would say, my first real company, because it was actual business that created value and wasn't just a transactional, I sell this and you give me money for it, and ended up being wildly successful.
Yeah, talk to us about that. What was that company?
So the company's called Nested Naturals. It's still run today by my ex-partner, and he's now the CEO, or he was the CEO and still is the CEO, Jeremy. We started that company 5.5 years ago. The whole vision for the company was it's a supplement brand where you know what you're getting, and it's honest ingredients, and they're natural and wholesome. So, you should feel trustworthy connection with the brand, because in supplements you don't know what you're getting. Like, everybody is told at some point they need to take supplements for this and that. Doctors recommend it, friends recommend it, and it's all pure science. And it's like, I don't know what's in this powder or what this does, or
Can't pronounce that ingredient.
yeah, it's just this whole mystery. And so our thinking was, let's try and dumb that down. Let's just give people the truth, try and take out all the fillers, and just give great quality products. Also make it natural, organic, non-GMO, vegan as much as we can. So I think that was a great idea. It was pretty transformational at the time. You see a lot of companies doing that now, but when we launched, that was new. Most supplements just talked about lose weight or gain muscle. That's pretty much what it was. And even if it's like a vitamin B, it's so boring. It's just vitamin B, take it. It's super straight up. So we tried to approach it from that. And this is at a time, 2013, 2014, when Amazon was just starting to scale. So, Amazon's been around for a while, but you've only really in the last 5 years seen them do amazing amounts of volume. And we came on right at the beginning, which, we put in an incredible amount of hard work. I think we were the right guys to launch it at the time. We took the right approach, but also, and I'll be the first one to admit, timing was lucky. We were in the right place at the right time. We chose the right platform to launch on. Our first product, Luna, which is a natural sleep aid, ended up becoming the #1 best-selling natural sleep aid on Amazon, probably I think for the last 4 years. Dominated the category, 5, 6, 7,000 reviews. I don't know how many it is now, but it's huge. And it all started from that one product. And,
So Luna was your first product?
Yes. We both had troubles with sleep at the time. And the thing about melatonin, which a lot of sleep aids are centered around, is it's, the melatonin that you get in a capsule is a synthetic hormone. So it's actually the hormone that your body produces when it's okay, it's night time, let's go to sleep. It produces that and it puts you to bed. So you don't want to take too much of that, though. There's all these extra herbs and remedies and all these cool things that you can do on the natural side that will actually get you to sleep without getting too much melatonin. So we had a really great balance of the both. We launched, we did a couple iterations of that formula, but we launched with a fairly unique formula already. And I think great branding and a great name. Like, I'm super proud of the name. Think I think that I came up with it just one day at the doctor's office or something, and I was like, yeah, Luna, like it's the moon, and it's purple branding, and I think it's the coolest. So
What's the story behind the name Nested Naturals?
yeah, so the real true story is that we actually launched under a different brand name, and it was called Intranaturals, and the whole thinking was, oh, it's it's naturals from within, it's for you, it's internal, it's for you, and it maybe not be the sexiest name, but like it was a good name. We're like, okay, we're gonna do it. And we ran with that name for, I believe, around 2 years, but we ran into a trademark issue. And this is a great learning lesson. I didn't know this, first time, big company, so I didn't know what this meant. But when you commit to something, it's a good idea to check the trademarks. And what that means is it's probably also a good idea to not only check the USPTO, if you're in the States, or the Canadian version, or whatever you're looking for. You can check the directory and see what patents and trademarks are out there around the name that you're looking to get, but also just speak with a lawyer real quick, because they'll be able to tell you, you can get them to do a search and they'll look up, okay, if you did this name, these competitors would be a problem for you, or don't do this name because you're never going to get it approved, so don't even go through with the application. And what we found is that the process takes so long to get a trademark. It takes about a year-ish, 6 months to a year. That by the time we tried to get it, we were actually denied, and we couldn't get the trademark for the name. Well, it's a huge problem when you're creating a valuable company and you can't even get the trademark for your own name. So we're like, shoot, all right, the name is good, but it's not great. Let's come up with something different. So this is at the point when we had a team, and we had a couple of people in the office, probably a room, honestly, not much bigger than this. And we spent a couple days figuring out names. I think we had a list of maybe 200. We were going through dictionaries. We were going through, anything online. Like, we were making sure that we looked at the USPTO and everything. And one of the people on our team actually said Nested, and we're like, oh, like, check that out. And then it made the top 10 list and made it down to the 5th, and then eventually got chosen. And the whole thinking was, again, internal, nest, home, and the products are natural,
Did you get was nestednaturals.com taken at all, or no?
So we got lucky with that as well. I believe we bought it for $10.
Nice.
I think that one was completely available, which
Nice.
was also that was also a criteria we need to get a domain as well.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get nested.com. I think that's the thermostat. I think they had that. So
Yeah. Nested.com. Yeah, that's right.
So that was a big learning lesson. If you're doing something or thinking about doing something, it's worth taking the hour or two to look at the trademarks, because you don't want to go put in 1 to 2 years of work only to find out that you can't get the trademark, and even worse, you're actually legally you've got some liability if you were to continue by not having the trademark.
Right. So I want to bring this back a little bit, but how did you and Jeremy meet?
So we actually had a mutual mentor. So I had a mentor who's actually in the city. His name is Dan Locke. You might have seen him on YouTube because he's all over the place. And this is before he was blowing up like crazy. So he was, doing some different styles of coaching, and, was focusing on a different area of business. But, he was really successful at, selling online. Like, he sold courses, coaching. He would do seminars. He would do speaking events. Like, he had a great email list of, that was big, and had an audience of people that, trusted him. So, I was really lucky that I was able to get in touch with him. And the way that I got in touch with him was we had bought one of his programs or something. It was like I think it was the affiliate website thing that we bought. And for months, I emailed their customer service team every day with, hey, how do I do this? How do I fix the color of this? How do I change that? Like, because they offered support. So I was like, all right, just give me as much as you can give me. And I would just bomb them all the time with like questions of how to do this and do that and get ahead. And I think, I don't think that he saw any of the customer service emails, but they must have told him, they're like, hey, this guy is really
Give
creating
him a refund and get him out of here.
Yeah, this guy's really creating a headache for us. But it was not in a bitchy way. It was like, I gotta like learn this stuff. And he reached out to me and said, hey, listen, I think it'd be good if we could maybe do something together. I want to mentor you, and in exchange, I'll give you some of the upside of if we do work together. So it's unpaid. It's, I'm not getting a salary. I'm not getting anything hourly. It's if we do a project together and it goes well, you can have a bit of it. And I was like, done. Like, this is awesome. So through that, Dan was working with another guy, Jeremy, who was also mentoring him in a very similar way. Jeremy's, 10 years older than me and didn't have the same dynamic.
Was Jeremy
as
also
much.
supporting him? Like, email support tickets?
I don't
So
know.
you got
But
this Kevin guy and Jeremy guy just keeps.
he might have, because, he's pretty, if he wants something, he wants it. So, that was probably, we probably had that in common. And, after working with Dan, which was great, but it wasn't, a permanent thing. We weren't going to be business partners for years and years and years. When that phased out, I was like, hey, this Jeremy guy's around, and, didn't really think much of it, but he reached out to me and said, hey, man, I want to do this company, but this time, because he'd done a lot of stuff alone, he's like, I want to do something with a partner. And because I kind of know of you, I think you'd be a good fit. And I was like, done. Like, let's do it. No questions asked. Like, I was in a mind frame back then of saying yes to anything. So I would have still said yes to him even if I wasn't that way. But I just had a rule in my head. Any opportunity comes, I'm going to say yes.
That's really interesting, man. I think that's actually such a good trait to have, especially when you have nothing, because you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You got it. Like, a lot of people ask, like, oh, how did you find your passion? You can't find your passion without trying many different things, because how would you know what you're passionate about if you don't actually try it and do it?
Totally. I mean, one of the things I did, which, I'm really grateful for, is, I learned how to do cold calling and phone sales. And I'll tell you.
That skill.
It's a great skill, and I don't use it as much today in actually on the phone, but it was something I was terrified of, that I really thought that I wouldn't know how to do. In fact, one of my jobs when I worked at the mall and I was buying all this stupid clothes was I got fired from because I wasn't selling enough. Instead of meeting customers, I would fold clothes. So I was afraid to meet people and connect with them, and I learned how to do phone sales because I was like, you know what? Even if I don't love it, I just feel like I need to do it. I'm just going to try it. And that's how I closed a couple of my clients from the social media days. And, I was like, if I never had that skill, I wouldn't have got those clients. So, I'm not a phone sales guy. I don't love it, but it's good to learn new things and try new things, especially when, there's no downside. What, someone hangs up on me? Oh, that's the worst that could happen, right? So saying yes to everything is great until you get to the point where you got to manage your time really effectively. You got so much going on. You and I both right now, if I said yes to everything, now it's actually more of a no game. And, I want to say no to more things just only because the quality of projects and things that come at me are so high where I can afford to say no. If I said yes to everything, I would do everyone a disservice.
Yeah, it's like at the beginning, say yes to everything. Once you scale and move up, say no to everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really
if
cool.
it flips on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you met Jeremy through this common mentor, and you wanted to start. He wanted to start this company. Then now, were you guys at the beginning discussing many different opportunities? Like, hey, we can do physical product, we can do agency, we can do this, we can do that, or was it boom, we knew it was supplement? Or
No, he pitched me with the idea. He's like, I want to do supplements, and in fact, I want to do, I want to launch on Amazon. I want to turn it into something big. It was maybe a 30-40 minute call on Skype, and he came in with that idea, and I was already taking supplements. I was, into health and wellness, so I was like, yeah, I like it. Amazon I knew nothing about, because we have it here now in Canada, but back then in Canada, no one was buying on Amazon. No one. So it was really only the Americans that were getting the benefits of it back then. And then selling physical products, I was like, okay, that's new, but I know how to sell. I know how to, create a thing and sell it in exchange for money. I know how to think of conversion rates and, PPC. So I was like, okay, I can understand that. Let's do it. And then, it was really doing product research on what we would do. So that's how we found the sleep aid. And that also came from, we had sleep troubles at the time. So we're thinking of what product will we use or what product will we want. So that's how that came. And then it was just leading, going down the path of, okay, well, if we're going to make a sleep aid, how do we make a sleep aid? Oh, I guess we have to find a manufacturer. How do we find a manufacturer? And then just question after question, you go down the road and made a ton of mistakes along the way and found bad manufacturers and ones you can't trust, and then eventually find a good one and stick with them. So it's just about this learning path.
Yeah, like how do you, for the people that are listening, you know, a lot of people think like in order to create a supplement, you need to be like a scientist or like a chemist or something. Like when I think of supplement, you creating your own brand, you gotta, like I think of like someone in a white, you know, lab coat and stuff like that, and you gotta know, you know, all these different things. So how do you even, without you knowing anything really about supplements, and Jeremy didn't have any sort of chemistry background, how do you guys create that first product?
So he had pretty extensive knowledge, not from a qualified scientific background, but just with his own passion. So he spoke the language of supplements, but he never formulated it before. So he used his knowledge. I believe we went to a manufacturer and was like, hey, we're going to need a little bit of help here making something unique. Can you guys lend us a hand? And they had someone on staff that could kind of contract out and give us some, you know, help and some guidance. Because, you know, with supplements, which is a good thing for brands, but also a bad thing, is you have minimal oversight. You know, the FDA is not going to, you don't have to get stuff approved by them. You just have to use, you know, ingredients that are essentially pre-approved, and you can put it together in however way you want. And some of that is on the manufacturer. They have their own guidelines there, but you want to go to someone that can help you out. On top of that, we also figured out later on, you can essentially find really smart people. Some of them are like teachers at universities, and, you know, whether it's food scientists or natural holistic nutritionists, you can go to them and say, hey, I've got a project for you. Would you be willing to formulate a product that does this, this, and this? And, you know, they'll be like, okay, great. Like, you know, I love teaching, but also I got a side hustle here helping companies formulate products. I'd love to make one for you. And what they'll do is they'll formulate it, they'll take it to a manufacturer, or you take it to the manufacturer. If it's a product that you taste, like a powder, you can go back and forth on taste samples and refine it. And then once you've got it, you put in the order, and you're good from there.
How long do you think that process takes? A lot of people that are listening to this right now be like, that's so tedious. How long approximately?
Yeah, I mean, that's also, you know, that you want to create something that's unique, but how unique is up to you. So if you want to take something, you know, you look at the market and you see most products have X formula, but you want to add in these three things. Okay, well, the question is how much and at what rate and what type, because usually, you know, vitamin C or vitamin B has like 10 different forms or something. So you got to do some research there. But, you know, within, you know, a deep dive of a couple weeks at most, to even sometimes just going deep for 1 week at a time, you can get something pretty amazing. And, you know, in the supplement game, and this really translates to a lot of other categories as well, you know, you need something to stand out. Like doing Me Too products is good for a bit until it's not. And then you've got nothing to differentiate yourself. So you do want to have something that's a little bit unique.
Totally. So you launched your first product, Luna. You put it on Amazon. You guys didn't really know how to use Amazon, but figured it out, right? Just you know, getting it done.
Yeah.
Now talk to us about kind of, you know, you launched one product. What was the first year in business like? Like, where did you guys finish the year off after? Do you guys had just one product in that 1 year, or?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to think back. I'm just going to give ranges because I don't have everything in front of me. But, I mean, it was a whirlwind. It was like, you know, put the product up. I believe we sold a unit or two on day one without marketing. And I was like, what? Like, who's there to buy it? Like, you know, and that was Amazon back in those days. You could put up anything and people would buy it on day one with no reviews. So, you know, that, again, right place, right time. We ended up doing really well with that product. Our biggest problem in the first year, and actually the second year as well, was we just can't buy enough. Like, we were selling too quickly and had to be out of stock at one point for like a month or two, which is so painful to have no stock for that long. I believe we finished off the first year around $1 million in sales. The second year we doubled to about $2 million. In the second year, we actually made the decision to hire a team. We moved to Vancouver. Set up an office here, literally 2 or 3 blocks from this office right here. Hired people, went down the amazing rabbit hole of management, leadership, you know, building out a real company and a real team. We built out culture and put these amazing perks into place. Today, the company, I mean, I believe there are over 20 people, in office with remote people around the world. It's been like a crazy journey getting to that point. And today, and also when I left the company for years like 4 and 5, doing 8 figures a year in revenue, and still growing significantly after that.
Wow, that's amazing. So what are some the, I guess, hardships when you first started? I know running out of stock, that's a very good problem to have.
Yeah.
But what were some of the things that really kept you up at night? You're like, oh, that you didn't expect. Was there anything?
Yeah. I mean, competition is really high in supplements. So you're going to have competitors come in that are really pushy, really aggressive. There's a lot of money. So you might have someone come in with bigger budgets than you. So we had to worry about that a bit. We worried about just actually, are we doing everything we can? Like, and that was one thing that we did right. I know you asked what would you, like to do better, but one thing that we did really, really right was, when we had our baby and we had launched and we got our, first review, all right, 10th review, like it was every day, are we doing everything we can? And that came down to making sure every customer support ticket was answered, that every customer was followed up for a review, that, we were planning ahead enough and we were trying not to run out of stock. Like anything that we could do, we did do. And we didn't let it slide. We didn't let it, now that we're launched and we're 15 reviews and we're selling 10 a day, it's like, no, like we're going to push every day. Like it's never good enough.
Right.
And just that mindset and that mentality starts to build and starts to compound. And that's how we built it up to the best selling sleep aid and the most reviewed. I mean, no one is going to catch up to that product unless Amazon changes the algorithm, which they probably will at some point. But, and then things to worry about, really just, there's something that's really, when you're successful, and this is our first real success, it's really hard to start thinking long term. And we did think long term, which is great. We're thinking years out instead of just the next 6 months. But, you want to pull money out so bad. You've got money sitting in the bank. You're profitable. You're making money. Like everything seems great. I had debt that I had to pay off, and I don't think we paid ourselves for the first year. So like that was, everything is just going back into the business, which, you have to do today as well. Like that's your fuel to fuel the fire. And, eventually we got to the point where we could take a salary, and then it started going up and up each month, and that was good. But really at the beginning, it's about like, how can you just be determined and smart and long-sighted enough where you don't screw it up? Because, this is another great quote. Again, I don't know who said it, but more companies die from suicide than they do by homicide. And it's so true when you think about it. More companies screw up this or they do that, they run out of money, they raise a round and they screw it up, or the million things that could go wrong, versus a competitor coming in and dominating you enough to where you can't survive anymore. It's like you have a better chance of screwing things up yourself than someone else is going to screw things up for you. Most companies are focused on themselves for the most part. So, when you think about it that way, it's like, oh, we got a good thing going here. Let's not screw it up. And we try to think about, okay, how do we make sure that doesn't happen? Because that would be bad. If we got everything, if it's like winning the lottery and like you didn't sign it properly, you couldn't claim the money, or like something, like just something went wrong, that, would be devastating. So we tried really hard to make sure that didn't happen.
Right. So what made you guys what made you hire in-house versus, because I know that in the e-commerce space, hiring the virtual assistants, kind of the cool thing to do. You got a team of 20 VAs in the Philippines or India or somewhere. Why did you guys decide to kind of have everything in-house versus, going that route?
So we thought that we would create more value and become a bigger, better company by hiring in-house. We wanted some control over people and to have them physically around and to have commitment from people. We wanted to see them and talk with them and build a relationship with them so that, we weren't wondering what they were doing. And we also had a peer who was actually in, not in the supplement industry, but the beauty industry on Amazon, who ended up building out a incredible company with, I think at the time when we met him, they had 20 employees and were doing millions per month on Amazon. Even back then, this is like 2015. So I was like, whoa, like if you've scaled to that level and you've got a team, that must be the reason why. And I think it was. It's not the only reason why, but we had enough proof supporting going down that path. And it was also just such a challenge. It was like, whoa, like this seems really crazy and hard, and I think we should do it. And, you know, it's just something we could really sink our teeth into. And we had no clue what we were doing. I remember when came to Vancouver, we rented an Airbnb for 6 weeks, and we actually started hiring people and running the office out of the Airbnb. It was a 2-bedroom condo, 800 square feet. We had people working at the kitchen island and on the coffee table. Like it was, you know, and we're hiring like young people, so like nobody cares, but like it's very like
as like scrappy as you can get.
Yeah, super scrappy.
Love it.
We would, you know, after a hard day's worth of work, we would go get a 6-pack of beer and hang out on the roof, and it was just, you know, it was super cool. But as
do you miss that?
I do.
You miss those days?
Yeah. I'm hoping, you know, I'm really looking forward to doing that again in my next company. You know, there's something special about being small and being nimble, and it's a family. Like you spend so much time with these people that, you know, you wanna create a real connection with them.
Yeah, I feel like as companies grow bigger and bigger, as you have a little bit more cash, you don't care about money as much as when you literally had to start a company with like $5,000. Like every single dollar counted so much.
Totally.
And you had to make those decisions so wisely. Now it's like, oh, like let me pay that agency $3,000, that agency $5,000, and you could become almost. I'm speaking, not you, me. I almost become like started detaching myself from the business. Whereas I remember in the beginning, everything was you, right? You had to build this puppy thing.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's interesting.
you normalize really quickly and you desensitize a bit. So, you know, for me, it was normal to say, yeah, we do like, you know, over $1 million a month in sales. Like it's no big deal. Whereas me 5 years ago, I couldn't even imagine doing that much sales. Like it's incredible. So yeah, anyways, going back to the team, you know, it was a small ragtag team that we had, and, you know, we're the little guys that want to dream big, and, you know, there's so much power in that. You know, if you're small, that is your advantage. Like that is because you're nimble, you can do things fast, you don't have all these processes and, you know, things that'll slow you down. So, you know, that's something that I do look forward to having again.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, fast forward a little bit, Nested is obviously very successful, doing 8 figures in sales, got 20 employees, and you were young, right? You were 20.
Yeah, I believe I started the company at 22 and exited at 27.
Yeah, you're 27 years old, and I feel like if you were to tell this to a lot of people, you know, they'd be like, wow, like you made it as a 27-year-old kid, you know. You made it, you got this amazing brand, you got 20 employees, but you decided to actually exit the company. You sold your shares to Jeremy. Mm-hmm. So what made you, everybody will think like you're living the dream, but what made you do that? Was it a founder issue? Was it personal decision? You just want to get away? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, it was a personal decision. I think, you know, people talk about this, you know, I guess it's the people that say money doesn't make you happy, or, you know, oh, like you must be so lucky, or, you know, I wish I could be you, and those types of people. And then, you know, you'll hear the stories of people who are on the other side going, oh my God, like if only they knew how I actually feel or whatever. And I in no way feel bad, but I was dealing with some personal feelings that actually took me a little while to deal with. It took at least a couple months to get to the point where I addressed them, where it was a bit of a lack of passion. And also, you know, I wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction than Jeremy did, but he was the CEO, and, you know, we started it together. You know, I didn't want to like fight and, you know, take away something from him in order to get what I wanted. And, you know, my thing was like, you know, trying to look at this as, okay, if I'm, you know, thinking long term, which now I'm starting to think very long term. You know, for me, being in a company 5 years is short. So I'm thinking, oh, like if I do a company for 5 to 7 years, I'll be able to do another, let's call it 5 of these. So this is my first one. I can do another 4 or 5. This one is like my layup. And if I'm not showing up, because I wasn't showing up to the office as myself fully, I wasn't giving it 100% per se. And I knew that it was just deep down inside of me. It was a lack of passion. And it was almost like I had like run its course. Like it was, okay, I gave it my all and I put everything in, and, you know, I came out the other side. And who says that you have to sell the company and, you know, have outside investors come in or have a buyer come in to say that's when you're done? Like, you know, fortunately for me, we had a shareholders agreement that outlined what would happen if someone wants to leave. And clearly, you know, it's not an easy decision, nor is it something that it's just like, okay, I'm out, see you later. Like, I had to deal with the fact that I was leaving my partner, and it was like a breakup. It's like, you know, I spent the last 5-6 years with this guy working just as much, you know, I spent as much, if not more time with him than I did with my girlfriend. So, you know, I've got a huge relationship with this guy, and it's like, okay, see you later. And so there's a bit of you know, an understanding that, you know, this is not going to be easy for the both of us. But I also felt like I was doing myself and the company a disservice by staying. You know, I was like, you know, maybe it's better if I take some time away, take this as a great win. You know, by all means, it's a win, but, you know, it's a layup towards something else in the future. And I think it ended up working out great because, you know, I was able to take a step back, and, you know, we went through a share buyout process, and now I'm, you know, can move into something else. And he can now take the company in whatever vision he wants. Like, he's, you know, sole, you know, owner, and he can, you know, go down this path, or he can change, or he can sell, or, you know, whatever he wants to do. So, you know, it's almost like, you know, maybe I was meant to be with him for a bit to start this thing together and then hand it off. And then I go in my direction, he goes his. You know, I'm a big believer in, you know, things happen for a reason. So, you know, it was, for me, again, it was internal. It was a feeling inside. Because on paper, it's so stupid to leave. Like, why would you give up so much, you know, money and value? But I think it was good. You know, I'm these days I'm feeling really good. Passions are high, energy is high, and I'm realizing that's actually really important. You want to make sure that those levels are high, and if you're, you know, you should do check-ins with yourself, you know, at least monthly. And if you're not feeling that, you know, you need to make some adjustments. Because if you keep going for, I mean, you could do it for 6 months to a year. If you do it longer than that, I mean, that's when you get into burnout, which I did experience. And it's rough. Like, you just start to get into a depression, and just things don't go well. And then you're wondering, why am I doing this? Because, you know, then you become the guy who's so successful but isn't happy, right?
Yeah, man. Like, mind is such a fucked up place. There's a lot going on up there.
Yeah, I mean, and I know you feel this way too. Like, it's such a blessing and a curse. Like, you have to keep it in check, because your mind created this. Like, this office that we're in, the brands that you have, the vision that you have, it all started with your mind, and it's so powerful. And, you know, who knows, wherever you end up down the road, I mean, you could have, you know, just like Jimmy Pattison down the road, you know, I believe he's a billionaire, right? Is he?
Yeah, he's a B.
Yeah, he's a B. You know, he's, you know, you could be the next him, right? So that mind is so powerful, but at the same time too, you know, if you don't take care of it, if you just keep working, especially on stuff that maybe you should change a little bit, but you don't want to, whether it's for ego or just practical reasons, or you don't have time, or whatever the excuse is, it can be rough. And
yeah, I think it goes back to, like, almost like, for me, it's almost like insecurity. Like, it's almost like the fact that I'm trying to create more businesses is so that if one of them does fail and magically it just like goes away, let's say like my Amazon business goes away or my coaching business goes away, at least I have other ones to fall back on. But at the same time, I feel like that's such like scarcity mindset as well. It's like, why would you just assume something great is going to go away? And what happened? Like, so what if it went away? Like, you're still gonna be Tom. Like, that didn't get taken away from you. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a, you know, there's that fine balance. There's always a balance, right? You can't be on the extreme of any sides. I think you just gotta like walk this line and yeah, it's I don't know, it's really weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer, both just in theory and in practicality, about, the world is not so black and white, and the gray area matters. Details matter, and being extreme isn't going to work in most cases. You have to see both sides, and you have to be balanced. And, that actually does show up as extremes in some ways. Like, I know for me and probably for you too, sometimes weeks at a time, you're working like crazy. You're working 12-hour days all the time. But the way you balance that is by taking a week off after, or you go on vacation, or so it's not about like daily balance. It's more about like the swings of going back and forth. And as long as you can, handle that and you're mindful about it, I think you can be successful. But, for me, I was so far to the other way where I just didn't want to deal with stuff. And then, one day I think, everybody could tell, and they're like, dude, like, what's going on with you? And then that forced me to go, oh, I got this thing that I got to deal with. I actually did take a week off work. And it was through that process that I actually ended up making the decision. So,
Well, dude, I have a lot of respect for you for making that decision. That's a big move, and it takes a very special person with big balls to do that. So, Kevin, so let's wrap this up. I mean, incredible story, but I think this is just the beginning for you, and I'm excited as your friend to kind of watch you. Like, I'm excited to see what the next thing is going to be.
For sure.
That I'm excited about.
Yeah.
What do you want to do next? Like, what's the next thing?
So,
do you know yet, or?
Okay, so right now I'm doing something in between. I'll decide if I want to do this all out or not, but I'm doing consulting. So we're talking about energy and what lights you up. One of the things that light me up is strategy, problem solving, just getting in and helping people. And I realized, okay, I can do that with other brands. So right now I'm working with a couple brands, testing it out with you, with one of your brands as well, to kind of lead and guide and help brands, A, make the right decisions, but B, also avoid all the ones that I made and get them to success faster. So
you're also a therapist too.
And I'm a couples therapist.
You're a couples therapist.
Yeah, you guys, when you have problems, you come to me. So
you're a great listener, man. I love when you say, so based on what you said, this is what I'm really hearing. I'm like, yes, someone's actually listening to me.
Yeah, I like listening to people.
It would be so funny if somehow you did create a like you became like a couples therapist, and then people you
totally.
come, and then people would be like, yeah, how'd you get started? Like,
yeah, I mean, I need some credentials there to be professional, but totally, like, that would be super helpful.
That'd be so funny.
But yeah, so I'm seeing, I'm doing consulting right now, and do have some capacity for some other brands. So if you're a cool brand and you think you want a bit of help, maybe reach out to me, and I'm not taking on everyone, but we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Are you saying, going back to the talk we had earlier about saying yeses and nos, are you gonna start saying more yeses, or are you still gonna be very
I actually no, I think I'll say more no's. I think I really want to, because that was my thing before, where I really want to do something because I want to do it, not because I feel like I have to do it. And that's that change in scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. So I want to say no to more stuff and have power in that, in order to say yes for the one thing that I'm like, yes, like, let's do this. So I want to be careful about that.
That's cool, man. Well, Kevin, for those listeners out there who maybe don't have their first business yet, maybe they're still working a 9-to-5 job, but they got this, flame inside of them, and they just know that one day they're going to be a somebody and they're going to have a successful business, whatever they define success by, but they just haven't figured out yet. What's that one advice, or what's that one thing that you will tell them, to those people that are listening or watching this right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go after something that I think that I went through, and that is, be really curious and be really open-minded. Don't listen to anyone, but also remember that success is everywhere, and you can learn from different types of people. I learned stuff from people who have just started their business out in different ways, and I learned from people who are way more successful than me. So keep that mindset, and then dig in deep and don't stop. And you got to remember that this is a long process. If you're just starting now, you've got 5 years ahead of you. And I know that's scary to some people, and I know that it could be disheartening, but if you think about it that way, you are automatically beating out all the people who are only thinking 6 months ahead or 2 years ahead or 3 years. You've got them already. So you're going to outlast them as long as you can stay with it. And then take care of yourself and make sure that you're working hard, but also you're balancing yourself, and that you're, being kind, and you're not being judgeful, and, all these things that you got to remember, like, it's more of a marathon than it is a sprint. And your success might not happen when you think it will, but if you don't give up, eventually it will happen. Like, if you just don't quit, it will happen eventually. It just might take longer than what you think.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anybody who tried their whole entire life and at the end they weren't successful, and then they just...
Like,
they literally
maybe that's
tried.
A new podcast idea, because, man, I don't know if you'd...
I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's funny because this morning I was reading a post with the KFC guy, the Colonel, right?
Yeah, he was like 65.
Yeah, he was 65. He was, he was ready to. He's like, might as well just be dead. He tried all these different things and nothing worked, and he was 65 years old, and then he knew he was really good at cooking.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna cook some chicken. I'm gonna sell this chicken. Knock door on door, and he became a billionaire.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how old you are, right? You can't go back in time, but it's never too late to start.
Yeah, I like that, and that says more about his age or anyone's age. It says more about right place, right time, great product. I don't know the KFC story, but there had to be something behind that drove it. It didn't matter that the guy was 65, right? It was the right formula for success. And it proves that you can be successful at any age.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for being our first guest on How I Started. And for those who want to follow you, and maybe they have a cool brand that is already doing, 6, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it might be, they want to get in contact with you, or maybe they just want to, talk to you and stalk you, Where can they stalk you at? Where can they find you on social? You
can stalk me. You can DM me on Instagram. It's at KVNPSC. It's my name with no vowels, so that's a thing. You can also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and reach out there, but Instagram's always a good place.
Kevin Pascoe.
Kevin Pascoe.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Kevin Pascoe, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. We'll see you guys next time.